Chapter 2. Religion in general, regardless of creed, had to start somewhere. In the beginning, historians agree, religion grew from magic. Our distant ancestors were convinced that the right incantation and ritual would induce rain, provide food, and boost fertility. The cave paintings found in France, among other places, depict animals that are thought to serve as magical images to promote good hunting. In addition, early humans carved multiple miniature stone images of pregnant women, possibly as a kind of inducement for fertility. Of course, magic works until it doesn't. Egyptians needed the Nile to flood every year, bringing nutriments to their parched soil. Their shamans were supposed to ensure the annual deluge with the words and actions. When that failed, gods were born. They were powerful, usually, unseen beings who could control human events, a logical explanation for why magic didn't always do as expected. In some religions, animals and birds were visualized as gods and objects of veneration. Egyptians combined human and animal elements to create hybrid gods, such as the bird-headed Thoth in Egyptian. His name translates as he who is like the ibis, and ended up with a large pantheon mixed with animals and people. Greeks didn't hesitate to mingle species, such as satyrs half-men, half-horse and the three Furies, who were depicted as winged women with snake ornaments. Other peoples birthed gods in all shapes and sizes, although most resembled humans. In addition, humans could see the sun and the moon, both of which seemed very powerful and metamorphosed into deities. After all, we all could see a face on the moon as if watching humans. Some deities started as divine authorities in a small section of a country, and then grew in stature and dominance as believers conquered their neighbors. That's how Marduk became the chief god of ancient Persia, succeeding Tiamat only to be supplanted in turn when Cyrus the Great, a Zoroastrian, became the overlord. Amun, a chief Egyptian deity whose name can be spelled Ammon and Amen among other choices, also started his reign in a small city and was soon worshipped countrywide. Isis, queen of the Egyptian underworld, became venerated around the Mediterranean. Conquering kings usually imposed their faith with little opposition, since the losing side invariably concluded that the winner must have stronger gods. Most of the 10 lost tribes of Israel didn't wander off somewhere. Israeli survivors of the Assyrian conquest in the 8th century BCE largely assimilated. In addition, combatants in an ancient civil war had to select a god under whose banner they could fight. On occasion, a religion gets a boost through unusual circumstances. Cyrus fought under the Zoroastrian banner while his Persian opponents prayed to their gods. In another example, King Asoka of India, upset with the huge numbers of casualties in his wars, turned to Buddhism, then a minor cult, as a way to reconcile his conscience. Sometimes, beliefs coalesce around a remarkable individual, such as Jesus, or are initiated by an inspired leader like Muhammad, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Joseph Smith Jr., Martin Luther, George Fox, or Mary Baker Eddy, to name just a few. Various people around the world have become motivated enough to initiate hundreds of religions in just the past 300 years, but the process has been repeated multiple times throughout human history. Other religions have been kicked off by a traumatic event, such as cargo, which formed on several Southeast Asian islands during World War II, as a belief that certain rituals will bring supplies from more technically advanced countries. It was born when the islands were used as depots during the American War effort against the Japanese. Many religions evolved through accretion. For example, Gnosticism combined Greek paganism with Jewish and Christian ideas. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all borrowed elements of other faiths. Then, too, a philosophy can create one, such as Confucianism and Buddhism. Fear of the unknown helped initiate Shinto, the ancient Japanese national religion that sees humans as good but plagued by evil spirits that must be placated. In that faith, which dates back prior to 600 BCE, sacred spirits, kami, exist in living creatures and in the environment as well as in abstract concepts like fertility. Regardless of origin, religions come in identifiable formats. Many are polytheistic. That is, they include multiple gods in their pantheon. Some are pantheistic. They believe everything shares the same spiritual sense. In animism, all living creatures have spirits, but they are unique to the individual. A few religions are henotheistic. They have an all-powerful deity, but don't deny the existence of other gods. As mentioned, Judaism started out that way. See Appendix for more on Judaism. Zoroastrian is another example of that, proposing that its principal god, Ahura Mazda, is in competition with his counterpart and twin brother Ahriman. Christianity is close to that, having elevated an evil being named Satan to be near equality with their god. Then, in the 14th century BCE, an Egyptian pharaoh named Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten, spellings vary, and declared he was the sole priest of the sun god Aten. With that claim, the ruler wiped away the existing dominant religion built around Ammon. At the same time, he apparently invented monotheism, the belief in a single god. Akhenaten wasn't particularly interested in religious innovation, but rather breaking the hold of the priests of Ammon, who headed the Egyptian pantheon. By elevating a new god, Akhenaten put those pesky priests in their place and unable to dictate to him. Henry Roman VIII of England did pretty much the same thing in the 1530s by creating the Church of England to replace the Roman Catholic religion. He was countering the Pope, who refused to grant him a divorce from Catherine, a Spanish princess, in fear of alienating Spain, which was then the primary financial backers of the papacy. As a newly minted religious leader, Henry could and did approve his own divorce so he could marry Anne Boleyn. Akhenaten's new religion died with him, although scholars like Sigmund Freud, the Jewish-born father of psychiatry, thought the pharaoh's religion was adopted by slaves and eventually became Judaism. That suggestion has failed to win over most historians, although some of the Psalms in the Bible are rewritings of hymns to Aten. Jews actually didn't become fully monotheistic until the 6th century BCE when pressured by the Babylonian army. That's long after Akhenaten had been largely forgotten. The Greeks developed human-like gods like Zeus, Apollo, and Ares, who seduced human women, fought with each other, and interfered in human lives. Some scholars, admittedly not in the mainstream, argue that the original Greek gods were human monarchs who may have lived on Atlantis, the mysterious land that supposedly sank beneath the waves thousands of years ago. That civilization has captured imaginations, especially in modern times when equipment is now available to scour the ocean floors for artifacts. Plato, the famed Greek philosopher, is the only ancient writer to mention Atlantis, and he did so in 360 BCE through a monologue supposedly spoken by Critias, a philosopher who lived from about 460 to 403 BCE, and was using exaggeration to present his ideas. The records speak of a vast power that your city once brought to a halt in its insolent march against the whole of Europe and Asia, at once a power that sprang forth from beyond, from the Atlantic Ocean. For at that time this ocean was passable, since it had an island in it in the front of the strait that you people say you call the Pillars of Hercules. This island was larger than Libya and Asia combined, and it provided passage to the other islands for people who traveled in those days. Now, on this Isle of Atlantis, a great and marvelous royal power established itself and ruled not the whole island, but many of the other islands and parts of the continent as well. Timaeus, 24e, 25e. A couple of notes. Asia in this paragraph refers to only a small area that the ancient Greeks labeled by that name, not the huge continent. The Pillars of Hercules refers to what is known today as the Straits of Gibraltar. Despite Plato's comment, it was navigable then as it is now. In another treatise, Critias continued his discussion of Atlantis. We should recall at the very beginning that, In very rough terms, it was some 9,000 years since the time when a war is recorded as having broken out between the peoples dwelling outside the Pillars of Hercules and all those dwelling within. But now, because of earthquakes, it has subsided into the great ocean and has produced a vast sea of mud that blocks the passage of mariners. Who would sail into the great ocean from Greek waters? And for this reason, it is no longer navigable. Krishas 108e-109a, soon after, he added, so it was that Poseidon received as one of his domains the island of Atlantis, and he established dwelling places for the children he had fathered of a mortal woman in a certain place on the island I shall describe. Ibid 113c. As you can see, the only god mentioned is Poseidon. There's no hint that leaders of Atlantis morphed into deities. There's still not proof Atlantis ever existed. Edgar Cayce, the famed American sleeping prophet, predicted the lost continent would be discovered near Bimini in 1968 or 1968. That has not happened yet,